Hello and welcome, dear friends and friends of Gartenschlau.com. My name is Bernd, and today we're going to talk about how to save Phalaenopsis that have no roots at all. How to save them. And I want to show that in every video. I made a similar video a long time ago. However, I couldn't continue with that for professional reasons. I'm going to do it differently this year because this year I'll demonstrate to you how it works. I have two ideas for you here, two Phalaenopsis to be exact. As you can see here, they can have no roots left. That can happen by standing too wet for a while. That can happen. If you look closely here, we can still see dead mealybugs. They're dead because I recently sprayed them. And when the plant is weakened, the roots can also die. In general, if they are too wet, the substrate is too compacted and the roots no longer receive oxygen, etc. The reasons why this happens are very diverse, but there are ways to make it better again. Of course there are, and then of course you need pots. In this case I'm just taking two 5 cm pots, or rather for one of the plants because the name tag is hanging here. I'm using the old pot. I'm taking out the old substrate. There was still pine bark in there. We don't need that. Now you're probably wondering what kind of bag is this and what's inside there. There's sphagnum moss in there, which is a type of moss. There are different qualities in general that you can buy on the internet. They come in compressed form. So now, like this coconut substrate, you have to throw all of that into a bucket. Put in 5 liters of water or 3 liters of water until it has swollen up. Practically the same as with the coconut substrate, or just loose, uncompressed in the bag. This packaging is almost empty. I've emptied it now because I've planted all my other plants in there. Sphagnum moss has many positive properties. On one hand, it is fungus and germ inhibitors, and that's actually quite good for sick plants. However, that doesn't mean that all the plants I have are sick. But the next property is, and that is actually the much more interesting. When you put orchids in this sphagnum moss, they are so motivated to form roots. And that's exactly what we need if we have such struggling plants. Here. With this plant, you can see here, new roots are already starting to sprout. You can also see here there's a little bump. Maybe you can see that in the video. A new root will also come out soon. Here's a little bit of root left. That means with this plant the conditions are already very good, because it can still absorb moisture through this. The other plant looks similar. There's still a little piece of old root attached. It's best to cut it off or tear it off. Tearing it off is a bit more problematic because, I'll say this, the main vein in the root structure will be covered in one of the next videos. Can definitely be very stable, where you run the risk of injuring the plant. But the conditions for this plant are even better, because here the root tip is still active. You can see this in this smooth, shiny tip. That means it will grow well. And here more roots are already coming out. That means there's a very good chance that this orchid will come through this positively. What should be considered? What if you use sphagnum moss? This here is coming out of the bag, is still dry in itself. If you've done that using a sphagnum moss cube that is compressed and you let it swell up with water, when you press the sphagnum moss, there should really be almost no water coming out. If 2 or 3 drops come out, that's just perfect. So you can press it quite firmly and then it's perfect. When it comes out of the bag like this and is completely dry, then it's obviously simple. So you need to moisten it. You can go ahead and put the loose material in the pot and then just place the plant in like that. In principle, that would be more than enough, because the warranty is in place that the plant or the root that is still present comes into contact with the substrate. However, you can also do that separately. This step, it's advisable to use a smaller pot like this. And then you can just start shaping it a bit here. The whole plant can definitely sit a bit deeper. That's not so serious. However, it shouldn't sit too deep and shouldn't be covered by the substrate. Yes, we're still missing a bit of substrate here. Then you basically put them in the pot. Ideally, it should be a bit airier. So, if you take a compressed cube and just break off 2 or 3 chunks and mix the unexpanded ones with the plant. In the pot, there's of course the possibility that there's too much pressure and it can't breathe. It should be relatively loose. So a small 5 centimeter pot, well, a relatively large plant is basically suitable for that. That's simple. A smaller volume can't hold too much moisture, so there's no danger. Is it possible that the roots that are currently forming will start to rot again right away? That's basically the background, why you choose small pot sizes. After you've potted these plants a bit, well, potted, and I would recommend you can go ahead and water it. I have now taken a glass of water. You can just place it in there for a moment. The sphagnum moss absorbs water very well. It holds it very well too. And after you've watered them now, you simply place them ideally in a spot where the humidity is quite high. If you don't have something like that, then you should at least spray it every 2 or 3 days over the plant. However, you should make sure not to hit the leaf heart. It's a good idea to spray the plant from the bottom, just so that the plant can absorb moisture through the leaf. Can absorb moisture and then, such as a little, is protected. However, you have to be careful, so you do need to give the plant a bit of dry stress. Otherwise, it will rot if it realizes, oh, I'm getting enough water through the leaves, then I can take my time with the roots. It's just like when you're sitting on the couch and someone throws you bags of chips. Then you don't ask yourselves why you should get up and walk to the cupboard. But there should be a bit of motivation present. That you say, oh, maybe I should form some roots, because otherwise it could turn out really, really badly for me. And that's basically it for level 1. Another thing you could do, if you now have a large transparent one, if you have a bag, here we happen to have one, you could take the plant and practically place it inside the bag, close the bag a bit at the top and open it once a week to air it out. This will also increase the humidity and you won't have to spray as often. Basically, you don't really need to spray again. There's a tense atmosphere. The orchid can establish itself quite well there. By the way, it works with almost all orchid species. If you take a large Cambria or a Poglossum hybrid like this, then it's like this. Of course, you need a correspondingly larger trash bag. I'll say that now. It should also be ensured that a lot of light gets into this bag, so a black bag wouldn't be very advisable. And then you just have to wait for a while until the roots form. If you do this at the beginning of winter or at the beginning of autumn, when most plants go into a certain resting phase, then is there a risk that it won't work? What if you do it in spring, where the plants then again, let's say, starting with the growth, then it can definitely be worth it. If you really try to save the plant in spring, or let's say it always depends when the plant, let's say, has dropped the root. So in spring it's easier and in summer than in autumn or winter. Exactly. That's it for the topic of how to save orchids. Please be so kind and ask every now and then how things are looking. If I don't provide you with a response video, and then I will provide you with the response video, and then we'll see if we've saved these orchids by summer. If you have orchids that you want to save, then I would just suggest go to my Facebook page. You'll find the link below in the description. Just post a picture of your orchid, how it currently looks, let's say. I'm saying in what kind of situation you are currently in. And then we'll see if we can get our ideas together fit by summer. That she feels really beautiful again. Feel good and have really recovered well. Otherwise, I would be happy if you join me for the next video. Give a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel up top, recommend me to others. Until next time, and bye.